A warm good morning, dear children, and welcome back to today's class. I am Mrs. Kishwani, and today we shall be doing the poem Amanda by Robin Clean. Alright, so let's proceed. But I expect that you have your books and notebooks open in front of you, and your book should be open to page number 61. Alright, so let's begin away and look at the author or the poet, right? So notice that I called her an author, and that is because she is a novelist as well as a short story writer, along with being the poetess of this particular poem. She's an Australian and has written quite a few children's books. Now, those of you who have been paying attention intently to what I'm saying would have realized that I'm using the present tense, and your eyes would have fallen on the dates. So some of you can check it out on Twitter if you so wish to. Let's move on and look at the first, have a first look at the poem, right? So first we always begin with looking at the title, and when we see the title, we realize that there's an exclamation mark, and it seems to be about a girl, right? However, this part over here tells us that it could be a child, and it could be either a girl or a boy. And what is it that we're talking about? We're talking about control. We're talking about too much of instruction, okay? And we are talking about curtailment of freedom, okay? And they've asked you to write down some of the things you want to do, but your parents and elders do not allow you to, okay? Now, for example, some of your parents may have set specific timings for the use of the Wi-Fi, and they would switch off the Wi-Fi. But nowadays it doesn't really matter, because there is always the data, okay? Or they might say, okay, deposit the cell in my room before you go to sleep, or by a particular time. They may want you to wear particular kind of outfits for particular occasions. They may want you to come home by a particular time. So these are some of the restrictions that I could think of, right? Generally speaking, on the part of parents, okay? So let's begin. Don't bite your nails, Amanda. Don't hunch your shoulders, Amanda. Stop that slouching and sit up straight, Amanda. There's a languid emerald sea where the sole inhabitant is me, a mermaid drifting blissfully. Did you finish your homework, Amanda? Did you tidy your room, Amanda? I thought I told you to clean your shoes, Amanda. I am an orphan roaming the street. I pattern soft dust with my hushed bare feet. The silence is golden. The freedom is sweet. Don't eat that chocolate, Amanda. Remember your acne, Amanda? Will you please look at me when I'm speaking to you, Amanda? I am Rapunzel, I am not a care. Life in the tower is tranquil and rare. I'll certainly never let down my bright hair. Stop that sulking at once, Amanda. You're always so moody, Amanda. Anyone would think that I nagged at you, Amanda. Alright, so here's a glossary, and you can have a quick look at the glossary. I know you know the meanings of these words, but when it comes to 1 mark questions, that is when you will need it the most. So what is it that we are looking at? We're looking at an authoritative mother, a mother who is very strict. And there's a juxtaposition with a dreamy and childish Amanda, right? So when I say juxtaposition, I mean, it's put side by side. It's like a clash. And this is what provides humor and amusement for us, right? Of course, it talks about the end of childhood. It also talks about expected behavior of young women, right? So let us, we're talking about, how children should behave. On the one hand, we're also talking about parenting, right? So when we talk about parenting, we talk about this one chapter that we've just done. What was it? The Tricky and Mrs. Pumphrey's chapter, in Footprints Without Feet, a triumph of surgery. All right. So that's chapter that we're talking about, and children, as I keep telling you time and again, you can get a question on parenting, right? Let's move on and look at it stanza by stanza, okay? So let's look at the first stanza. Don't bite your nails, Amanda. Don't hunch your shoulders, Amanda. Stop that slouching and sit up straight, Amanda. There is a languid emerald sea where the sole inhabitant is me, a mermaid drifting blissfully. So, what is it that we're talking about? We're talking about a barrage of instructions. We're talking about a child who is being told how to manage herself, right? Probably she doesn't know how to deal with herself, she doesn't know how to, um, how not to bite her nails. She doesn't know how not to sit. This is the correct way to sit. To sit up straight, with your spines erect and not with your slouched shoulders. So um, we have a girl who is feeling pressured. Why is she feeling pressured? How do we know that she's feeling pressured? Because while the mother is instructing her, and we say, Mother, because in most cases, it's a mother who gives instructions. It's a mother who takes care of the upbringing of the child, and if you know a little bit of psychology, it's the mothers who are always nagging their children. Okay, fathers rarely do that. Okay, so here we have the mother. If you look at these exclamation marks, you can understand the kind of irritation, the kind of frustration that the parent feels. Okay, at the same time, you if you're looking at it from the point of view of the child, she's fed up of all the instructions, and therefore she takes recourse to escapism, right? And in her escapist world, she thinks that um, she's a mermaid, and she is blissful, like she's happy about it. Okay, so the mother's corrections on the one hand, and the imaginary world on the other hand, that is something that I was talking about when I said that there's a juxtaposition of two worlds, and all this because she feels suffocated, because she wants to find peace. And where does she find peace? In a world, in a self-created world, right? In a world that she has painted the way she wants it. Okay, and I just use a metaphor if you were paying attention. So here we have Amanda wishing to be a mermaid. Did you finish your homework, Amanda? Did you tidy your room, Amanda? I thought I told you to clean your shoes, Amanda. So, again, there is a barrage of instructions. And this time, it's about homework, and it's about cleaning the room, right? And it's about shoes. Now, uh, many of you will wonder, what kind of a child this is. This is, or rather, what age the child is. This is a child uh, who is not totally grown up. It's a child who is still living in the world of fairies, right? And that is why she talks about Rapunzel and all of that. So, a child who likes fairy stories is a child who has not yet attained teenage, because once you've attained teenage, then the kind of stories that you like are slightly different. Okay, now these are the if you realize that these are the regular instructions that any parent will give the child, but here the child is not willing to take those instructions. Okay, the child says, I'm an orphan roaming the street. I pattern soft dust with my hushed bare feet. So she feels like an orphan, and that is why she imagines that she is an orphan, right? And she imagines that she is roaming. And where is she moving around? Roaming in the street. And what is she doing? She's patterning soft dust. So she's playing with the dust. Probably Our parents are asking her to be careful about going out. Our parents are asking her to wash her hands too much, all the time. So it's the curtailment of freedom. The silence is gold and the freedom is sweet. So from these lines we can make out that she she is pining for silence and she's pining for freedom. So and why is she pining for silence? Because whenever she is at home, as I told you, there are those innumerable instructions that are always being thrown at her, and right now, it's about finishing homework, it's about tidying up her room. Don't eat that chocolate, Amanda. Remember your acne, Amanda? Will you please look at me when I'm speaking to you, Amanda? So now it's a case of eating chocolates. Now here we are talking about a mother's worry about regarding external beauty, okay, and the value of external beauty, and probably the mother wants Amanda to take a few steps in this direction so that her face is not spoiled by acne. Okay, so again, there is a minor point here. How much of external beauty is important, and are we supposed to be looking at external beauty alone, or are we supposed to be looking at the internal beauty of a person? Okay, so we're talking about mother, so you can say that the mother represents society, the society which cares for external beauty. And Amanda, of course, is in her own world, as we know, and she doesn't um, mind eating the chocolate, okay, probably because she's fond of it, okay, and she is too immersed in her own thoughts, and that is why she's not looking at her parents, and she is and that is why the mother says, will you please look at me when I'm speaking to you, Amanda? So she's either immersed in her own thoughts, or she's immersed in whatever it is that she is doing. Okay, so it's a question of a society and the kind of significance that it gives to external appearance over here, right? And here also, why is it that the mother is giving these instructions? Why the set of instructions? Why is it that the mother wants the child to behave in a particular manner? Obviously, once again, so that she is not a misfit so far as societal expectations are concerned. Okay, because each parent worries about his or her child. All right. I am Rapunzel, I am not a care, life in the tower is tranquil and rare. I'll certainly never let down my bright hair. Stop that sulking at once, Amanda. You're always so moody, Amanda. Anyone would think that I nagged at you, Amanda. So now she wants to, um, uh, you know, um, escape to another world, and she would rather be away from all kinds of anxiety. You know what happened, the story of Rapunzel. I'm not going to tell you the story over here, right? You know what happened when she let down her bright hair. So she wants to, she's perfectly happy all by herself. She finds life to be peaceful, and she is in her own world, in a world of dreams, where she doesn't want any disturbance from anyone. All right. So I want to draw your attention to one thing. It is definitely, this again tells us that it's a preteen, a child who is not yet found love, right? A child who is so fed up of the effect of the parents' teachings that she would rather live without her Prince Charming, right? And here we have the mother again saying that she should stop sulking, and the mother blames the child for being moody. Now my question to you is, is responsible for the moods of the child, okay? To what extent, rather, are the parents responsible for whatever it is that Amanda has become, the moodiness that Amanda shows in her attitude? Anyone would think that I nagged at you, Amanda. Now, the mother presumes that all these instructions that she keeps giving cannot be considered nagging. She presumes that she is a responsible parent. She presumes that she is bringing up Amanda in a manner that would be would make her um, the acceptable to societal norms, right? But but we know that, probably she has failed somewhere. Not just she, the parent who is doing all this nagging has failed. And how and why has the parent failed? Because the dialogue that should be open between a parent and a child, that dialogue seems to have ceased somewhere. And because of the cessation of the dialogue, we find Amanda uh, always escaping to her own world, right? So, how would you like an ideal parent? A parent is somebody whom you can run to and tell everything that tell everything that you want to. A parent is somebody that you can, just sit next to and talk about your joys and your sorrows, right? And here we have Amanda not wanting to converse with her mother. Rather, we have a child who just wants to be away and to be left at peace so that she can live by herself, right? She finds peace in being away from society. Okay, so let's move on. So now let's look at the central idea. This is more or less like a summary, okay, you can say, or this follows the poem. We're talking about the freedom that the child likes to enjoy. We're talking about the dreamy romantic world of childhood, which holds a fascination for the child. We're talking about the constant nagging, the overprotection, the curtailment of freedom. We're talking about constant instructions. We're talking about the fact that this interference curtails Amanda's freedoms, okay? And because of all these reasons, children, I know you could have read all this, but this is important, that she would rather live in the world of fantasy. She would rather enjoy chocolates. She's probably postponing growing up because the kind of image that she sees of grown-ups in front of her is an image she doesn't fancy, okay? So let's look at the poetic devices, and I'll expect you to read the poetic devices. I think I put it in stanzas, right? As per stanza, so you can look at this. Anaphora, is the repetition of the vowel sound in between, within the words, right? Not at the beginning of the words. Assonance is when you have repetitions at the beginning of various lines, right? The rhyme scheme, I have arranged the rhyme scheme for the entire poem. But when suppose you get one stanza, then you will begin your rhyme scheme with A. Okay, I'll just let you know what it means when we move to the next slide. Metaphors is something that you are sure of. And let's move on to the next stanza. Okay, repetition is when the word is repeated in the same line, so that's why it's different from anaphora, right? Imagery, this is something you can always get a question on imagery in any poem, right? Alliteration is something you're familiar with. Literary allusions, when we are referring to mermaids, or when we are referring to Rapunzel, okay, that again is a literary allusion. So, see, look at this, the repetition of did over here. The same word in different lines is anaphora. See, the rhyme scheme, I have kept it from the beginning to the end. I've begun with A and I've gone ahead. But when it comes to a single stanza, for example, if you're looking at this particular stanza, we will say A, B, A. Okay, if we're just looking at these four lines which have been given to you. So whatever the lines that are quoted in your examination, you will look at only those four lines, and you will look at the rhyme scheme then and there, and you will decide what the rhyme scheme is. So this is not something that you need to memorize. Okay, assonance, again, the repetition of the vowel sound, right? Metaphors, repetition, literary allusions. Consonance is the opposite of assonance. So consonance is a repetition of the consonant sound, right? So this is towards the end, the rhyme scheme where I have said A, But what if only this particular stanza is quoted or is given to you in the examination? Then you will write it as A, B, A. Okay. So that is how I have done. I've looked at the entire poem together, and that is why the H. Okay, so we're talking about issues of upbringing, we are talking about constant nagging, and of the struggles. We are talking about the long list of do's and don'ts that parents keep in front of their children, and as a result, their children pining for freedom. So the big question is, but the restrictions will always be in place. Okay, so you can't go and tell your parents, okay, now stop those restrictions, we can go out anytime. In any case, now some of you will say, okay, in any case most of you are vaccinated, and very soon we will also get vaccinated, so why not let us go out, right? So you may say that, but this issue is like a coin with two sides. Okay, so when you're saying this, you also have to understand that parents always mean the best for us. Okay, but sometimes it is how we look at it, and how we at their so-called nagging. Okay, this is a very important thing that I want to tell you. Okay, there are four different settings in the poem, the real world and those realms to which she escapes. And what are the realms to which she escapes? They are a construct of her own mind. Okay, this is how you'll put it across. So the first one is, of course, of the real world, where her mother is nagging her. Okay, then there is the sea, where she thinks that she is a mermaid. Then the street, um, where she imagines herself to be an orphan. And finally the tower, where she thinks that she's Rapunzel and she's been imprisoned, right? So all these settings are like are juxtaposed with, or are contrasted with, her real world. Okay, and because of all these do's and don'ts, and because of so much that she carries on her shoulders, her moodiness, right? Let's look at the questions. So, old do you think Amanda is? How do you know this? She is not a teenager. Okay, she is a school-going girl, and probably she is a preteen, right? So we're talking about fairy tales, and we're talking about how girls of this age love to read fairy tales, how they love to fantasize. Who do you think is speaking to her? It's a mother who is speaking to her, and I've already given you uh, the reason for thinking that it's a mother who could be speaking to her. Okay, so children, for such questions, if it's a 1 mark question, you can say mother is speaking to her. But if it's a 2 mark question or a 3 mark question, you will have to justify. Okay, why do you think it's a mother. And then in that case, this question will not be left here. Probably there'll be a why here, or there'll be a justify here, or there'll be an elaborate here, something. Okay, so based on the word that is given over here, you will have to process the question. Why stanzas 2, 4, and 6 given in parenthesis? I've already told you, those are the thoughts of the child. And who is the speaker in stanzas 2, 4, and 6? Do you think the speaker is listening to the speaker in stanzas 1, 3, 5, and 7? So, that we know that the child is not listening to, um, to whatever it is that a mother is saying, because she has retreated, or she has escaped to a world that she has constructed for herself, a world of escapism, a world where there is peace, a world there is where things happen the way she wants them to happen. What could Amanda do if she were a mermaid? She would drift in the languid emerald sea, where she would be the sole inhabitant. Okay, is uh, and why does she say so? No, she is not an orphan. Okay, because we know this because it's a mother who's constantly nagging her, but she hates the barrage of instructions, and that is why she wishes that she were an orphan, so that she would not be controlled by her mother, so that she would be left alone in the streets, so that she would be playing with the dust, and so that she would be living in a world of silence, which is golden, and freedom, which is sweet. Do you know the story of Rapunzel? Why does she want to be Rapunzel? Children, there are two things over here which, when you're talking about Rapunzel, she wants to be left alone in the tower, so that there would be no disturbance whatsoever. At the same time, she says, "I will not let my hair down." Okay, so if she lets her hair down, then she'll be disturbed by a Prince Charming, who will climb up using her hair, and then her freedom, her peace, whatever it is, will be destroyed. So she equates humans with a disruption of peace. Like she says that humans, because that is all that she's seen. She's seen whatever she's seen in her mother. She thinks and feels, or her parents rather. She thinks and feels. All humans are the same, right? What does a girl yearn for? And what does this poem tell you about Amanda? We know that she yearns for freedom. We've said it n number of times till now. And we're talking about the imaginative nature of the child, because each time she is nagged by her mother, she retreats or she escapes. Okay, so escapism is a word which is used at the higher levels, right? So, nevertheless, if you write escapism, a teacher who's done a master's in English will be able to understand. Okay, so you can say retreat in order to be safe. I keep telling you, you have to be very careful about words that you use, right? So you can say she retreats or she escapes. So use both the words, okay? So that, an examiner who doesn't believe in Amanda's escapism also agrees with the fact that she retreats. And an examiner who is open to suggestion, and and an examiner who's open to both points of view will accept it. Okay, so that is what I meant when I said this. Read the last stanza. Do you think Amanda is sulking? And she is moody. Now we know that any child who is of a preteen or a teen will actually become moody and will start sulking, and she will retreat. She will just recede into her own world. Not recede is not the right word. She will retreat into her own world, uh, in order not to um, be not to have the mother saying so much. So most of the time it's possible that the child is just hearing and not listening. Okay, that is why the mother tells her, "Will you listen to what I am saying? Okay, will you look at me?" Because when you look at somebody, that is when the mother thinks that the listening happens. Okay, so with this we come to the end of today's class. you've got to write all the answers. Stay safe, dear children, and God bless you all.